Hello, my name is Mike Pfaff, and this is my YouTube channel, Living in the Illusion. Now, last time we got together, we talked about how we create our illusionary world inside of us. And during that time, I mentioned that maybe we should discuss projection in a psychological sense. Projection that I'm talking about is also called a ego defense system mechanism. It's how we save our ego from feeling bad. And then I thought, well, maybe we better look at, or I give you an idea of my understanding of the ego. So, in the beginning, maybe this will be the whole session, we're going to talk about the ego in a particular way. So, when we think about an ego, we say, well, he's egotistical, or he has a strong ego. It is almost like a separate entity, that there is a separate entity that kind of talks to us and tells us what we should do or what would be the right thing to do based upon a lot of factors. So we have to figure out how this separate kind of an entity that we call the ego, or our ego, or we can look at other people and say, they got an ego. So let's see how we develop that. And to do that, we have to go back to our beginning. So when we come into the world, when we come into this world, you come into the world. I come into the world. So I'm going to put that on there. You, or me, you come into the world. So here is you. As you come into the world. Now, in this world, this three-dimensional space-time world, you need something or you can't get in here. And basically, what you need is a body. So I'm going to draw representation of a body. Now, there's some controversy whether or not you are in the body or the body is in you. But that's another discussion. So for right now, we'll just show it this way, where you come into this world with a body. So when you come in and you have a body, your body has certain antennae that's developed to look out into the outside environment. Look out into the outside environment. And when it looks out into the outside environment, the antennae bring information of the outside inside of us. So we have a body, and the body has a brain. So I'll just draw a little brain here. Make believe that's a little brain. And here you are. Now, I look at this as a big you, and the body as a little b. Because this is basically your life force. This is what keeps everything going. And that's why you're here. And that's why you need a body. But there is a change that comes over us at a very young age based upon our antennae. So I'm going to draw these antennae out here, and there is 5 of them. Right there. And that is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, touch, olfactory, smelling, and gustatory or tasting. So we got the 5 senses, providing there's no constitutional problems with the body or the mind. Now, it doesn't know anything. I don't know if you know that. When you come into the world, you don't know much. And all you do is you just kind of look around, and as you're looking around, you're picking up information, and you're trying to make sense out of the information that you pick up. Now, we know that the brain is not maturated. It's got a long way to go before it becomes mature. And so it's picking up information and giving you ideas, and but most of the information, most of your ideas at that young age is going to come from what's outside of you. Now, what's outside of you is, I'll just draw it like this. Make believe that's everything that's outside of you is in here. Oh, we said that before. Outside of you is everything. So make believe this is everything. But the most important part about it, for this young you coming into the world, is your parents. However that turns out to be. However, quote, this idea of parenting turns out to be. Could be a foster care, could be unmarried parents, married parents, extended family parents, all kinds of combinations of what is major caregivers. Sometimes the state has to do that. So this idea of parenting is an unusual thing. But for this young child, it's all it knows. So whatever comes out of this, and as we get older, now when I'm saying older, it's like months or a year or 2 older. Because most of your core belief about your world is going to be in place before age 3, and then the rest of it comes in place before age 6. So it's pretty young that you're picking up all this information. And as you do, you are creating. You are creating an idea, a concept of who you are. You're developing an identity. So, outside information coming to you, mainly from major caregivers or your parents, mom and dad, and also social media. This is way before you go to school. So you're sitting playing with your blocks in front of the television or in front of the computer, and you're picking up what's coming in from there, and as far as you know, that's the absolute truth. So you're picking up a whole bunch of stuff. You go to church on Sunday. Maybe the parents don't go, but they make sure you go. And then you pick up concepts from there. You pick up concepts from family meetings. You pick up concepts from mom and dad talking to each other over the breakfast table. You pick up all kinds of stuff. Doesn't have to make sense. You're just picking it up. And then this little brain in here is taking it in and trying to figure out, well, what does this mean to me? Of course, in the beginning, there's no language. So he's just kind of on his own, or she's on her own. And you begin to understand who you believe yourself to be, who you are, your identity. So this part of you turns out to be who you think you are. It's all coming from the outside. You're not creating it. It's all given to you. Not only is it given to you, it's forced on you. So you end up having an identity based upon what other people tell you. And you don't question it. You just accept it. You can't question it. You don't have the understanding to question it. You don't even know what kind of questions to ask. Most kids ask the question, why? Why is the sky blue? Why have I got to put my shoes on? All kinds of questions. Those are the kind of questions they ask. But as for what they're getting out of social media, political insights, religious, spiritual, all those kind of things, they just kind of come to them through what's out here. Basically, family of origin. And as you begin to develop your identity, at a certain point, you'll say, well, that's who I am. And when you accept who you think you are, when you accept that, that's your ego. You now have an ego identity. And it's very wise because you created it and you believe it's there. Now, unfortunately, your input information to make this determination has no idea about this part of you. No idea of who you are. So your ego is who you think you are based upon what other people tell you. Well, you won't believe that. You'll think, no, that's true. That's who I am. And to a certain extent, that's true. And you will have a lot of memories, which means a lot of experiences from birth until you make this determination of who you think you are. Now, of course, this is who you are. This is the big you, big you. This is the small body, small b. So we have small body, big Y. And what's another name for the Y, for this who you are? Well, it depends on what part of the world you come from, which also means what part of the world did this information, this outside information, come from. So in some places it's called life force, because it gives life to the body. And when this part leaves, body stops working. Another name for this, your original self, or your soul. So there's all kinds of names for this, but without this, the body disappears. The body is a creation within the illusion of our three-dimensional space-time world, and it doesn't leave. This part comes and goes. And when it leaves, this body stops functioning. But for right now, this is who you think you are. And your ego, it's very important for the ego, because you created it, to believe you're your body. Because when you don't believe you're your body, and you might think, well, maybe I'm something grander than my body, the ego gets nervous, because it can only live based upon your belief of who you think you are. Interesting idea. And so, as we do that, you will come to the social agreement with the egoic world. That's the name of saying everything around you has an ego. Everything around you has an identity. We name everything. And when we name it, we give it an ego. See, it doesn't matter what the organization, what the structure of the organization is. Every organization in the egoic world will have an ego, whether it's politics or a business or a ball club or a any religious group, politics. They're all ego-driven. They lose because they can't find this. Not yet. So that's what the ego is. And so that's who you believe you are. So if you got a problem in your life, see, this sets your identity. And if you believe you're a victim of the world, that's your ego. Created from this process of, at a very young age, being forced into your ear information as to who you are. And you might even heard that. Some parents have said that to kids, you know. Who do you think you are talking to me that way? Well, and so they tell them who they are. And that's who they are, because the ego penetrates all of your beliefs. It penetrates your world and how you see your world. Now, you may have noticed that I drew this like a lens, because when you accept your ego as who you are, you look out into the world through the lens of your ego. Now, if you change who you think you are, you got to get rid of this ego and get another ego that has the new changes that you've decided that you wanted to have in your life. Oh, and this ego will talk in your ear because it wants to live. You gave it life by accepting it, and now it wants to live. Interesting idea. Now, so throughout your life, this ego will disappear and another ego will come to take its place. There's a changing. It can go forward or backward. It could be positive change or a negative change, and this ego will die and another one will take its place. You'll create it because you've changed your identity. So you're not who you think you are. But you don't know this. You think it's this. This is who you are. This is who you think you are. Now, so there's always a conflict between these two. A lot of guilt sometimes. So now, before we go on, we got to see, before we go on, and we're going to do that next time we get together, we're going to look at your ego and how you save it, because this is your creation, and we don't want to let it get hurt, because when your ego gets bruised, you feel bad. It cries, it yells, it screams, it tells you you shouldn't have done that or you should have done that. So now we know how it talks in our ear and how it gets us to do things. Basically, it gets us to do things because it will cause us to remember a lot of negative memories. And it'll say, oh, if you'd only listened to me, you wouldn't have that terrible memory that bothers you. The world's full of crazy things. So now we have the ego and how it was formed and how it takes over our life and how it shows us a world in a certain way. In a certain way. And now we're going to, next time we get together, we're going to find out how you project onto the outside world, the illusion, onto the outside world to save your ego from feeling bad, which is basically who you think you are. So, it's an interesting concept, your ego, and how it runs your life, and how it convinces you you're your body. Even though we know the body is going to stop functioning at a certain point. And of course, you will just move on. So, until we get together again, be good to yourself. Have fun. And we'll see you next time.